TJ Knight. You would be co-captains.
What?
You will learn to work together. You'll all learn to work as a team.
That's crazy, man. That's really crazy, man.
Men, hit the showers.
Yo, with Flight, we
co-captains, man.
Baby.
What is yo? I'm the best player on this team, man. I'm the best player on this team.
Win after win and night after night. The Spartans are split by the stardust of flight. As fans start to cheer and chant Flight's name, future is forgotten more and more each game. Future shine begins to fade along with his pride. Ignite in the fire of envy inside.
So the story of Bounce is based on a Greek mythological story of the flight of Icarus. It's an allegory that's often used to show someone who flies very high, ascends to a certain height, and then they fall because of their hubris. So that's basically why I chose to follow that story, but also the fact that our main character can dunk like nobody's business. He can fly. Our nemesis character cannot, Future. But definitely going into the senior year, Future was the star. Future already had the three-point shot. He already had the handle. He was, for the most part, a finished product and getting better. So he felt going into his senior year that this was his year to shine. This was his year to catch the recruiter's eyes. This was his year, period. And so when Flight comes along, and now he has to share all of that, it's not even about Flight per se. It's about somebody else that he has to share the spotlight with. You know, Future's coming to school and he's thinking he's walking on the campus as the man, but nobody's asking about him. Everybody's asking about Flight this, Flight that, Flight. And so he's just literally just getting tired of hearing that name. I made it that name because our names, they're our identity. For nobody to even acknowledge him, TJ the Future King, every time he hears that name, it just grates on him even more, exponentially more, until he decides, okay, I'm going to take control of this situation and I'm going to do something about it.
Man, what happened last night?
I don't want to talk about it.
Really?
Yo, how many points you get, Future?
I don't want to talk about it.
Man, Flight was on fire last night.
I don't want to talk about it.
How many points did Flight get?
45.
I don't want to talk about it.
And he had 48. He hit that big three at the end of the game, remember?
Right, and then Flight got that double-double.
So, Future, how many points did you get?
Man, Flight this, Flight that. Everything's about Flight. Y'all just made me lose my appetite.
Ooh, come on.
Appetite. We going to eat?
Did I say
I'm tired of hearing you know who's name. I'm tired of hearing his high-flying game. Last year it was me who reigned supreme. Last year through the playoffs I carried the team. TJ King, the future king. That's my name, and my game is king. Now all I hear is that name, that name. It keeps overshadowing my game. Last year it was me who reigned supreme. Last year through the playoffs I carried the team. TJ King, the future king. I carried the team 'cause my game was king. You wanna talk about that name? I carried him on the strength of my skills long before he grew. Last year,
in the playoffs when he choked, and yet they still chant his name. I said I'll be back to lead this team, and this year I'm gonna show the game and the pain I can bring. But first, that name, it has to change. That name in the spotlight has to change. Time to rewind to when I had all the fame. DJ King, the future king. I carried this team 'cause my game was king. DJ King, the future king. And I think I know just what I'm gonna do.
Hello, my name is Greta Holby, and I am so pleased to introduce to you one of our original partners, Shanduk McFadder, who is the founder and the director of GMAC, Gangsters Making Astronomical Community Changes. And he's going to talk with us today about the character of Future. Hey, Shanduk, it's so good to see you.
Pleasure, likewise.
Yeah, you're outside.
Yes, I am. I'm always outside.
You good?
Yes, I'm blessed. I'm taking it one day at a time.
Shanduk, would you first tell us a little bit about GMAC and how that happened and that we became partners in 2016 and since 2016?
Well, GMAC was formed by myself in 2012 as a 501c3 that focuses on gun violence from a public health perspective. And our job is to mediate conflicts as they happen in our communities to prevent any gun violence that we can prevent or any acts of violence that we can prevent from conflicts. So we've been working in the community and doing that, providing opportunities, jobs, whatever necessary to deter someone from making that decision that would take somebody's life and send them to prison. So we've been doing that from 2012 to 2020 now. And I know back then we started working because of the concept. I think we reached out to somebody in the council member's office at the time, and they felt that would be a good link between us because of what you were doing with that basketball opera and what we were doing in the community.
It's too bad that you're not around in the middle of the show and to stop this whole thing that happens without anyone there to help him out. I just wanted to say about Future. He clearly knows some bad kids. He calls somebody and he says, hey, you got to help me. And one thing leads to another, and we get to Athens Park, and of course, there's a tragedy in motion.
On these streets, the stakes are high and the danger is real.
I don't want these dudes to keep happening, man. That's why I'm playing street ball. Hey, we ain't going nowhere. Do your job. I'm your point guard. I'll take care of you. Come on.
Athens Park, after dark, where only the strong survive. Weak, they question your heart.
Help! I guess he can't fly after all. Look at him crying like a little girl. Help! Somebody!
All officers, please respond immediately. All officers,
hey, yo,
please respond.
We out!
Shots have been fired in Athens Park. Shots have been fired. All officers, please respond immediately.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that trajectory and how you feel about Future? Was he bad to begin with? Did it happen that way? What support would he have needed?
Yeah, I don't feel that we should put anybody in a place of being bad anyway or just being bad regardless. regardless of skin color. It's about where they come from, right? A baby is born and the baby is taught what the baby is taught and given the nourishment and the care that that child is given. So if someone is raised without those things and there's things that's happening in their lives that teaches them how to make other decisions, that's the type of decisions they're going to make. They may not see it as bad. They may see it as their only choice or an option because of the options put before them. So it's something happened in their life as they were growing up that allowed for them to look at things that way. So there's no such thing as somebody just bad regardless or bad anyway, just a bad person.
Yeah. Remember when we were rehearsing at the school and across the street was that shooting where the one boy was on the basketball court with 3 other boys who had a vigil afterwards, and he shot 3 or 4 other kids over a backpack or something like that. It's always surprised me, and yet that's very much, I suppose, somebody got angry and that was his only recourse. That was his only way of dealing with something.
Society has helped our communities feel like that's the way to deal with it, right? We can talk about what's happening in America. We know in different countries the level of violence isn't the same. So in these communities, there's certain things that happen to our young people, including myself being raised in the same communities, that tells us that is the best option for that moment, right? Without thinking about the option, but saying this is the best option is just to get rid of the problem immediately, and this is how we are taught, right? It's a learned behavior, right? And that's what we have to look at. These actions are learned behaviors.
So someone like Future, who fought his way up and succeeded up to the last moment, he had an amazing amount of strength to overcome the things that he didn't get in his life. And when the shooting happens, from the moment Future gets to the park, it feels as though he's 100% in. There never feels that there's a doubt. As the next few months go by in high school, has regained his fandom, he's regained the girl, he's regained his scouts in the stands, and he's in there like 100%. It never touches him. It doesn't seem to touch him that he's been the reason that this happened, the cause of it.
We're raised seeing things like that in our communities, right? If you talk about any character, that's not a new thing to them, regardless of age. We look at young babies who are seeing us shot down in our communities. So it's being desensitized, right? At that point, you're not focused on that. You're just desensitized to the act until something hits you or something happens that now brings back your morale and your real emotions, right? When you look at the value of what happened. But I know you had asked about the bad person thing, but going back to the whole call and how everything happened, he made a call because of everything that he was losing, right? That he was going through. And he felt that was the way to regain it. That didn't make him that bad person. That was just him going to what he thought his outlet was. Same way someone else made the call to call somebody else. He didn't do the shooting himself. He made the call to somebody who he knew would do that, right? That's how the chain of events happen. Everybody's not going to do certain things, and they'd be okay with the fact that somebody else did it because they see it as okay because of what society has put out there.
When he called somebody and said, you know somebody who does bad things, does he realize that that's a shooting, or is he sort of leaving it up to them?
When you call somebody, you just call them for a response, right? Anything can happen in response. If you call a friend to handle something, it could be a fight, it could be a stabbing, a jumping, it could be anything. So it all depends on the mindset of the person who comes to respond.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about, because I was down in Kentucky directing the show, and I texted you and I said, they're in the 4th quarter of the championship game and they're winning, and suddenly 2 plainclothes policemen come on the court and stop the game, go over to the coach and says, we have to speak to Mr. King, TJ King. They go over there and they say, come with me. And I texted you and said, would they put the handcuffs on him right then and there? Or since he's in a basketball uniform, he obviously doesn't have a weapon and he's just being brought in for questioning, would they bring him off first and put the handcuffs on later?
Yeah, there's no such thing as going in for questioning in our communities, right? Especially if it's cuffed or non-cuffed. Because when they put you in custody, they always want to cuff you. If you have someone come in for questioning, that's supposed to be willingly. I mean, I'm supposed to get in the back of the car, sit down, and you take me, and I walk off, and I walk with you. Not under the state of mind of being detained, right?
Just come with me, please.
It's a misunderstanding. I didn't do anything. Let me go.
So in our community, that's what we're used to. There's no trust. They maybe don't believe that person is willing to do that. So they just want to make sure that they secure their part of what they're out there to do, which is get you to that precinct. So by whatever means is necessary. But in different communities, you know that you'll have that, hey, we need to talk to you. And it wouldn't be in the middle of a basketball game, right? It would be coming to your house, right, where everybody's not going to see. Right? Those things are done in the manner of letting everybody see in the community what's happening with you, right, to further demean.
Right. Well, appreciate all this. Shandy, do you have any other thoughts about future or the gun violence going on right now? There's so many more shootings recently, right, than usual.
Yeah, I mean, just got to figure out, you know, every shooting is different. It ain't the same thing, ain't the same region, ain't the same people, ain't the same groups, right? No, ain't the same community. So we just got to look at what's causing these shootings in each one of these neighborhoods and figure out how we can prevent them from continuing, right? It's not about waiting for it to happen and responding to it. It's about getting in front of it before it happens, and that's what we have to do. Not just us as an organization at GMAC, but just everybody in the world need to figure out how we get in front of conflicts.
And how do you have your ear to the ground? I know you have the eyes, but everyone knows each other because it's a small enough community, or?
You got to know your community. Everybody in the community knows. If you know your community, if you live in the community, you're supposed to know people. How you say it's your community, right? And it's a common unity. We should be able to be out there and know what's happening with each other. So when something happens, somebody knows who they can talk to. That's a rational mind that could help give them a better option than some violent option.
Well, it's true. If you recall, one day we were unloading the truck when we were performing in Perdigot Park. Chitty was there with his guys to unload, and he was confronted and said, if you unload the truck, we're going to shoot you. And I called you, and you said, oh, don't worry, I'll send over some VIs. And they came up with the great solution, which I'm sure if I had said it, they wouldn't have listened to me at all. But they said, you go on that side of the court and unload, and the rest of you go and play basketball on this side of the court. And when you're finished unloading there, you're going to come over here, and you guys are going to come over here, and everything seemed to be fine. But partially that's because it's somebody in the community that they know, and they know that they're part of GMAC, correct?
That's a fact. That's a fact. I don't even remember that, but you do.
I do. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I do.
I do remember an issue with unloading in that park. So, but just remember everything, the chain of events after is definitely important. But yeah, just relationship, knowing who's who, how to communicate with them so they have an understanding of what's happening, right? You can't just bring unfamiliarity to somebody's community and they don't understand. With a lot of mistrust, what are you here for? What do you want to document? So everything has to have the right type of relationship coming into our communities.
And I'm sure that's why Jumaane Williams put us together right off the bat.
Yeah, he felt there was something good with you, which y'all were working on, and it would fit in with what we were doing. So I definitely seen that, and that's why we're still talking years later. The message has to come in different ways. It can't be the same way. Somebody can get the message in that way, and that's what I felt with Bounce, that it's a non-traditional method for people to understand conflicts and violence and the effects of it, right? Everybody's not going to sit down and just listen to a conversation. Some people need to see some type of entertainment that points them to it, that points somebody to the talent that they didn't have. We always spoke about that because I remember we gave you a couple of artists or people to play in it as well. So just getting people out of their norm and into something different is important.
Thank you.
You got it.
You have anything else to say?
No, you know where I'm at if you need me, all right?
What'd you say?
I said, you know where I'm at if you need me.
I do. And I'm here too for you if you need me for anything or need Bounce for anything or, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you, Shantu.
Peace.
I guess he can't fly after all. Look at him crying like a little girl. Help! Somebody!
Halftime.
Coach, I need to introduce you to somebody. This is the mother who lost her son that night at Athens Park. Mrs. Lucas, this is Coach Ellis. Sorry for your loss. This is our team. This is TJ King. He was there that night with me. Look, I know this isn't necessarily the best time to do this, but there's a whole lot going on after the game, so I thought this would be the best time. We all need some closure for how this year has gone and to just kind of acknowledge what has happened and to just respect and honor this woman. We're all falling apart. I'm still alive. I don't play like I used to, but I'm here. Her son is not. So I think we should dedicate this last half of the game to Mrs. Lucas and to her son. Mrs. Lucas.